Hello, and welcome back to the Drawhunter. I'm your charming host, Kevin Cleary, and this is the only soccer gambling podcast where we don't pick any winners. We hunt for stalemates. We hunt for the result that pays better, the draw. We don't follow the crowd here. We fade it. And today, we've got a slate that is absolutely stuffed with draw value. I like to bet the draw because draws happen a lot. 30% of all pro matches end in a draw. That's across all leagues and international competitions around the world, year after year and season after season. So if the draw is going to happen, why not try to figure out when and where they will occur to make money for them because they pay off at higher odds, or to make sure we're not wasting our money on a win bet in a game that looks like it's going to end in a deadlock. Sports bets at a sportsbook are settled on results after regulation time, the 90 minutes of play plus stoppage time, unless otherwise stated on very exceptionally rare occasions. If a game goes into overtime or penalty kicks, that doesn't apply to our draw bet. So we're looking for matches with near perfect possession splits and goal margins and historical frequency that make them prime candidates for a scoring deadlock. These are the hidden value draws where the market, i.e. Las Vegas bookmakers, are pricing outcomes too heavily towards favorites or volatility. These are the games where parity pays off for us. And even if you want to bet on winners, and I don't blame you if you want to bet on a winner or something like that, running down the games through this kind of perspective is still a very valuable handicapping tool for your toolbox. So if you're listening to this Drawhunter podcast, you're already ahead of the curve. New episodes drop twice a week. Mondays like today for all the midweek action, Thursdays for the weekend slate. Please subscribe to our show so you don't miss any. You can do it at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all those big names, wherever you get your podcasts. If you have any questions, comments, complaints, or pics of your own to share, please email us at drawhunterpodcast@gmail.com. First up, like always, let's dive into last episode's winners. And we have quite a list today from the 10 games that we had in the last episode, in the weekend episode on Thursday. We actually have 5 winners out of those 10, but 3 out of the 5 winners, we had 3. I did 3 for 5 on my top 5 picks also. First up, we have the game that no one else saw coming, but I did. Wrexham versus Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup on Friday ended 3-3 at regulation time. Wrexham won 4-3 on penalties later in what was literally one of the most exciting games of the season this year. The FA Cup is a fantastic tournament, and that game was actually the draw was plus 260. You're welcome. We also had a winner with Heidenheim versus Cologne in the Bundesliga over the weekend. That game ended 2-2, and the odds on that one were plus 245. Then in the Scottish Premiership League, which keeps paying off for us, like I told you it would, Livingston versus Kilmarnock ended 1-1. That was a game that was a plus 220 at the bookmakers. Hull versus Blackburn in the FA Cup ended 0-0. Hull won on penalties 4-3. That was a plus 245 odds for us payout. And Swansea versus West Brom ended 2-2. West Brom won on penalties 6-5 in a very exciting game also. That game was plus 220 for the bookmakers. So that was quite a bit of profit that was available to you. Actually, if you had bet on every game that I mentioned last week, you would have doubled your money. And if you only bet on the top 5 picks, you would have made a little more than that too. So there's a lot of national tournament action this week. We've got Copa Del Rey, Coppa Italia, all sorts of fun stuff going on across Europe and more around the world. So let's analyze all our draw contenders right after this quick message from the SantaBarbaraMint.com. The SantaBarbaraMint.com offers a carefully curated collection of the finest limited edition and one-of-a-kind collectibles from the coolest franchises in entertainment. The best of the world's TVs, movies, video games, comic books are all in the vaults at the SantaBarbaraMint.com. Use code DRAWHUNTER at checkout for a one-time 20% off your entire purchase, not just one item, everything you buy on that purchase. They have a lot of cool stuff over there. SantaBarbaraMint.com. Use code Drawhunter. Save 20% at checkout. Now, let's get into the games and the picks. There are a lot of National Cup tournament games this weekend, like I said, and these fixtures are going to combine low scoring averages, balanced possession rates, injury disruptions, historical draw frequency, and market pricing that combine to give us contrarian value for the bets that we make. These games that I'm talking about today are taking place all over the world, January 13th, 14th, and 15th, 2026. So first up on Tuesday, we've got the Copa Del Rey, or the Copa del Chaos, as I like to call it every time I talk about it, because you do not know what's going to happen in this tournament. We've got Real Sociedad versus Osasuna. Yes, you're recognizing that some of the names keep repeating themselves when you're talking about the draw hunting. Osasuna is always there for us. Real's been there for us quite a few times also. This is a home game for Real Sociedad at San Sebastian Stadium. Real is even money. Osasuna is plus 300. The draw is plus 225. Ball possession rates, Sociedad has the ball about 51% of the time. Osasuna has the ball about 46% of the time. Goals for and goals against, which are key numbers for us. Sociedad has scored 24 goals this season. They've allowed 27, so they're a little bit they're underwater by about 3 goals there. They've got strong control and they're decent, but sometimes blunt in their chance conversion rates. Osasuna has scored 18 goals this season and allowed 22, so they're 4 goals underwater. They're a hardworking team. They're compact. They're goal shy against some of the top sides. Head-to-head history between these two teams, the Liga meetings between these two teams are often very tight. There's been a bunch of 1-1 results, and a lot of 1-0 results going for both sides. There's not too many significant injuries to report on either side in this game, but this is a very draw hunter profile. We've got a home favorite that controls territory, but can struggle to break down a well-organized defense, plus an underdog that's comfortable sitting in and playing for their moment. Cup stakes add a bit of risk aversion here. The likely draw price of the 225 feels nice for a fixture with strong 1-to-1 potential and a low probability of a multi-goal runaway. Now let's jump over to Italy in the Coppa Italia, another national tournament, where we've got Roma versus Torino at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. And Roma is the favorite here. They're minus 188. The away team is plus 350. Torino is plus 350. The draw is plus 290. As always, check these numbers. I'm just using one bookmakers and they change from day to day as we get closer to the game. Find the best price you can from whoever you give your action to. Ball possession rates. Roma is the better team here. They have the ball about 57% of the time. Torino's about 45% of the time. But and scoring wise, Roma has scored 21 goals. They've only allowed 12. Torino has scored 24 goals, but they've allowed 32. 2 out of the last 6 games between these two teams were draws, and both of those games were 1-to-1 scores. Roma's carrying a couple of mild injuries. Torino usually rely on their system over stars, so the absences are less visible if they've got any injuries. This is about as classic a draw candidate as you'll find today. 2 relatively pragmatic sides, cup stakes, and a Torino team that specializes in close margins. Roma at home, they won't park the bus, but they also won't go full chaos if the tie is balanced late in the game. So that's why they're on the list today. I think that one's a really good game, quite frankly, for us, a good target for us. Wednesday, those are the games for Tuesday. Let's go over to Wednesday now. And we've still got the Africa Cup of Nations going on in the knockout stage. On Wednesday, we've got a game between Senegal and Egypt. These are neutral AFCON venues, so no one's got the home field advantage in these. Senegal is technically the home team. They're plus 115. Egypt is plus 260. The draw is plus 185. And remember what I keep telling you every episode when we come across a number like this. Anytime you see the draw at plus 200 or less, especially when you start getting down to the 180s, 185s, that's when the bookmakers in Las Vegas and everybody like that, that's when they're really acknowledging the likelihood of a draw occurring. They don't want to give away their money because they know that something's is likely to happen here. And that's because Senegal has the ball about 63% of the time. Egypt has the ball about 50% of the time. These are both two very strong teams. Historically, 2 out of the last 4 games between these two teams ended in a draw. They've had several AFCON meetings. Many of them are low-scoring, cagey, extra time-leaning matches. Okay, Senegal right now is missing 1 or 2 squad players. Egypt is dealing with a couple of defensive knocks and a Salah fitness watch. But this is a classic AFCON knockout draw profile. We've got 2 elite defensive structures, both comfortable dragging the match into the deep water. Senegal have the better balance, but Egypt's knockout DNA is very real. They slow games down, they kill the tempo, and they force 1-1 or 0-0 scenarios. The draw price is shorter than usual, as I said, because the marketplace knows this script, and it's still one of the strongest structural draw spots that we've got on the slate this week for the midweek games. And the other game is Nigeria versus Morocco on Wednesday. We've got, again, same neutral AFCON venue. Nigeria is plus 165. Morocco is plus 130. And look at that. The draw is a thin plus 180. The ball possession rates. Nigeria has the ball 62% of the time. Morocco has the ball 60% of the time. Goals for and goals against. 14 goals scored for Nigeria, 4 allowed, and that's just in this tournament, okay? Morocco has scored 19 times and allowed 1 goal scored. Both teams are elite defensively. Both concede very few high-quality chances. Keep that in mind going forward here. Head-to-head history, there's limited recent competitive meetings because of the nature of international competition, but stylistically, they both trend, and historically, they're both trending towards very tight margins here. Nothing really on the injury report for both of these teams, but these are 2 of the most balanced squads in Africa. Both of them are comfortable playing compact. Both have elite center backs, and both of them are struggling to break down disciplined blocks. This is a coin flip matchup, and the marketplace is reflecting that with the nearly identical win odds and the draw priced correctly because it's very likely to occur here. But it still holds value because neither team wants to chase the game early and maybe let something get out of hand. Cagey tightness in tournaments pays off for us all the time. Now, speaking tournament, let's go to another tournament. It's tournament week on the Drawhunter. We're going up to Spain and the Copa Del Rey, or as I always call it the Copa del Chaos, because that's what happens. We've got Alaves versus Rayo Vallecano, and Alaves is the home team here. They are plus 165. Rayo is plus 180. The draw is plus 190. Pay attention to the numbers. Rayo has the ball about 55% of the time. Alaves has the ball about 50% of the time. Look at these scoring matchups. Rayo has scored 16 goals. They've allowed 22. I'm sorry, Alaves has scored 16 goals, and they've allowed 22 goals to be scored. Rayo has scored 16 goals, and they've allowed 24. So you can see how I got those mixed up there a little bit, because they're almost identical. They're both low-scoring, grindy teams. 2 out of the last 10 games these two played were draws, but they're very draw-friendly. Historically, 2 out of... they're very draw-friendly historically, but 2 out of the last 5 games Rayo has played were drawn, and 1 of the last 2 games that Alaves has played in the league were draws also. So they're both on kind of a draw roll for us, and they've also and Rayo has paid off for us on draws several times over the last 2 or 3 weeks. This is another really great draw spot on the slate. 2 low-tempo, low-conversion teams with very similar profiles. For me, everything points to a 0-0 or a 1-1 game if you want to bet exact scores. And this is also a prime game for the under, if you want to bet the under 2.5 goals in this match also. England. Let's go up to England and the EFL Cup. We've got Chelsea. This is a big match between Chelsea and Arsenal. This one's being played at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are the home team, of course. They're plus 185. Arsenal is plus 150. The draw is plus 210. Ball possession rates, Arsenal is at 62%. Chelsea is at 67%. In this tournament, Chelsea has scored 9 goals. They've allowed 5. Arsenal has scored 5 goals. They've only allowed 1. They're there's a little bit of a matchup, but this one's really about the head-to-head history between Chelsea and Arsenal, especially when they play in a cup like this. 3 out of the last 5 games that these two teams have played against each other ended in a draw. And they've historically many, many draws when they play in cups together. A little over a month ago, they played to a 1-1. Last time they played, it was a 1-1 draw that I called on this show. So you've got cup context plus rotation plus the rivalry equals a draw-friendly match. One of the better spots on the slate. Let's go over to Portugal, to the Taça de Portugal. It's tournament week. There we go. And we've got Porto versus Benfica. This will be a great game if you get a chance to watch it. This is a home game for Porto at the Estadio de Dragão, and Porto is plus 135. Benfica is plus 165, even though they're the away team. The draw is plus 230. Look at these ball possession rates. Porto has the ball 56.5% of the time. Benfica has the ball 57% of the time. That's what I call a match. Goals for and goals against, look at this. They've both scored 36 goals this season. They've both scored 36 goals this season. Porto has only allowed 4 goals scored on them. Benfica has only allowed 11 goals scored on them. These are 2 elite defensive teams. Their last game was a draw, and these 2 teams average 2 draws for every 5 games they've played going back like 5 years. This is one of the most draw-heavy rivalries in Europe, period. This is premium draw territory for us. We've got 2 giants, knockout stakes in their tournament, in their national tournament. There's tactical caution and a long history of 1-1 results between these 2 teams. And that's a great way to close out Wednesday. So let's move over to Thursday, where we've got just a normal game in the Bundesliga in Germany between FC Augsburg and Union Berlin at the WWK Arena, for Augsburg being a home game there. It's a plus 160. Union is plus 180. The draw is plus 200. So Spider Sense ready. Vegas is on alert for this one. Augsburg has the ball about 45% of the time. Union has the ball about 38% of the time. Augsburg has scored 17 goals this season, but they've allowed 32. Union Berlin has scored 22 goals this season, but they've allowed 26. So, they can score, but boy, are they good at conceding. But here's the thing between these 2 teams. 5 out of the last 15 games between these 2 teams, 30%, were ended in a draw. This is a very draw-friendly, historically, rivalry. This is a classic Bundesliga draw profile. And remember, I always like to point this out. Last year, out of all of the European leagues, the Bundesliga had the highest draw rate. 34% of the games in the Bundesliga ended in a draw, because that's just the nature of this elite league that they play. But today we've got 2 compact, low-scoring, low-possession teams that play in narrow channels on the pitch. Neither side has the firepower to run away with this game. The draw price is short, but it's justified. Let's go down to Brazil, where they're getting their season started down in Brazil in the Paulista A1 league. We've got Botafogo SP versus Noroeste, and it's a home game for Botafogo. Botafogo is the home team, as I said, and they're plus 135. Noroeste is plus 190. The draw is plus 200. Ball possession rates, Botafogo's at 52, Noroeste's at 46. But the numbers here are, take them with a grain of salt because this is only the second game of the season. Goals for and goals against, for example, look at these numbers. 0-0 for Botafogo and 0 goals scored and 1 goal allowed for Noroeste in their first game. Noroeste allowed 1 in the first. So they're both low-scoring games as of right now. But historically, 3 out of the last 6 games between these two teams were draws. And what were the scores? 0-0, 0-0, and 2-2. Historically, a draw-heavy rivalry between these two matches, between these two teams also. But this is a classic early-season Paulista grind where there's low tempo, low scoring, they're evenly matched, and that's what makes them a strong draw candidate. And we're going to stay in the Paulista League to look at the RB Bragantino versus Corinthians game on Thursday also. Bragantino is plus 145. The Corinthians are plus 185. Oh, this is a Bragantino home game. And the draw is plus 200 also. Ball possession rates, Bragantino's at 66%. Corinthians are at 69%. Goals scored. They've actually scored some goals in their first games. Bragantino scored 1 and allowed 1. The Corinthians scored 3 in their first game, but they allowed 3 in their first game. 2 out of the last 5 games between these two teams were draws. But going back in history, there are also a ton of 1-0 and 2-1 games. I mean, like in the last 15 games these two teams have played, they've all been either a draw or a one goal game going right up to the end. And again, this is the second game of the season for them down there in Brazil. They're both 1-0 in the standings. They both won their first game. And this is a premium draw spot for these two teams. They're two compact, disciplined sides early in the season where they don't want to give anything away and they'll take a point. Historically, again, this is another very draw-friendly rivalry. So those are our games for this week. I'm going to make my top 3 picks. And one of them is the game we were just talking about, RB Bragantino versus Corinthians at plus 200. Number 2 would be Porto versus Benfica at plus 230. And then my third game for the top 3 Drawhunter picks of the day would be Chelsea versus Arsenal. Chelsea versus Arsenal at plus 210. So if you're building a card, I think these are your anchor points. If you're building a parlay, these are your foundations. That's it for this episode of The Drawhunter. I'm still your charming host, Kevin Cleary. Once again, new episodes drop twice a week. Mondays for all the midweek action like today, Thursdays for the weekend slate. Once again, please subscribe to our show at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can still email us at drawhunterpodcast at gmail.com. From the entire Drawhunter team, thank you for listening. And remember, there's no stopping it. Draws happen. Gambling involves risk. Please gamble responsibly. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. No guarantees are made regarding results or financial gain. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. You must be of legal age to participate in gambling activities. Check your local laws and regulations before placing any bets. This podcast was made by humans.